The Galactic Assembly gathered once more. The Great Hall was fuller than it had been in centuries. Every species was represented. Every seat was occupied. News of what had happened in the Kellen system had spread across the galaxy like fire. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Ambassador Una stood at the entrance of the hall. She was older now than she had been the first time she came here. 2 years had passed. 2 years of being ignored, dismissed, and forgotten. But she did not look tired. She did not look defeated. She looked like someone who knew exactly what she was about to do. Behind her stood her team. June was there, his glasses reflecting the lights of the chamber. Mira was there, her communication device ready. Old Bora was there, his eyes bright with something that might have been joy. And this time, there were others. Captain Tay stood at Yuna's right side, his uniform worn from months of hard work. Sora, Day, and Hana stood with him, representatives of the fleet that had made the impossible possible. They walked forward. The chamber fell silent as they moved down the long path toward the center. 47 species watched them, some with curiosity, some with respect, some with fear. High Speaker Varl rose from his seat. He looked different than before. The coldness in his eyes had been replaced by something harder to read. "Ambassador Una," he said, "you have returned." "I have," Una replied. She did not bow. She did not show any sign of submission. "You are aware that you were not invited to this session," Varl said. His voice was careful, measured. "I am aware," Una said. "And yet you came anyway." "Yes." Voral's forearms moved in a gesture that might have meant anything. 2 years ago, you came to this assembly and demanded a seat for your species. We refused. We told you that humanity was not ready, that you were too young, too reckless, too dangerous. "I remember," Una said. "And then," Varl continued, "without permission, without authority, without approval from this assembly, your people entered Kellen space. Your ships violated our procedures. Your captains ignored our warnings. Your fleet acted as if the rules did not apply to them." A murmur moved through the chamber. Some delegates nodded in agreement. Others looked uncomfortable. Varl raised one hand for silence. And because of that action, 1,800,000,000 Kellen citizens are alive today. They have new homes on 30 different worlds. They have futures. They have hope. Because humanity did not wait for permission. The murmuring stopped. The chamber was completely still. Varl looked at Una. "We have governed this galaxy for 12,000 years. In that time, we have developed systems, procedures, rules. They exist for good reasons. They prevent chaos. They maintain order. But perhaps, in our focus on rules, we have forgotten something important." He paused. "We have forgotten that sometimes action matters more than procedure. Sometimes courage matters more than caution. Sometimes the right thing to do is simply to do something, even when the rules say you should not." Una listened without expression. Beside her, Tay felt his heart beating faster. "The Gallen delegation has asked to speak," Varl said. He gestured to a section of the chamber where the survivors of the destroyed system had gathered. "We will hear them now." A Kellen elder rose. She was very old. Her scales faded to pale silver. When she spoke, her voice was soft but clear. "I was on Kellen 1 when the evacuation began," she said. "I was 230 years old. I had lived my entire life under that golden sun. When the scientists told us it was dying, I thought my life was over. I thought all lives were over." She looked at the human delegation. "Then the human ships came. They came without being asked. They came without expecting payment. They came because people needed help and they could help. That is all. This is all." Young men and women from a planet I had never heard of, risking their lives for strangers. I asked one of them why. She told me it was just the right thing to do. The elder's voice grew stronger. This assembly spent weeks debating how to save us. The humans spent those same weeks actually saving us. I do not care about procedures. I do not care about rules. I care that my grandchildren are alive. I care that my people have a future. And we have those things because of humanity. She turned to face the full chamber. The Kellen delegation formally requests that Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly. Not because they asked for it. Not because they earned it through years of waiting. But because they have shown us who they are. And who they are is exactly what this galaxy needs. The chamber exploded into argument. Delegates shouted at each other. Some agreed. Some disagreed. Some demanded more debate, more discussion, more time. Vorl raised all four arms. Silence. The noise died away. We will vote, Vorl said. Now, the question before us is simple. Should Earth be granted full membership in the Galactic Assembly? Those in favor will signal. Those opposed will signal. There will be no abstentions. The vote began. Una watched as lights flickered around the chamber. Green for yes. Red for no. The lights spread like a wave, species after species making their choice. When it was finished, the result was displayed on the great screen at the center of the hall. 30-9 in favor. 8 opposed. Earth had been accepted. The chamber erupted again, but this time with a different energy. Delegates who had voted yes were congratulating each other. Those who had voted no were arguing among themselves. And in the middle of it all, the human delegation stood in silence. Varl looked at Una. It would seem that you have gotten what you came for, Ambassador. Earth now has a seat in this assembly. You may take it whenever you wish. Una nodded slowly. She turned and looked at the outer ring of the chamber, where Earth's seat had sat empty for 300 years. It was still there, still covered in dust, still waiting. She walked toward it. The chamber grew quiet as every eye followed her. She reached the seat and stopped. For a long moment, she just looked at it. 300 years. 300 years of waiting and hoping and being told no. 300 years of that empty chair reminding humanity that they were not good enough, not ready, not worthy. She reached out and brushed the dust away with her hand. Then she sat down. It was a simple action. Just a woman sitting in a chair. But it meant everything. It meant that humanity had arrived. It meant that they would never leave. It meant that the galaxy would never be the same. Vorl walked toward her. He stopped a few feet away, his forearms folded across his chest. You did not ask permission, he said. No, Una agreed. We did not. You violated our rules. You ignored our warnings. You did exactly what you wanted, regardless of what we said. Yes, Vorl was silent for a moment. Then, slowly, something like a smile crossed his face. Perhaps that is exactly what this assembly needs. Someone who does not wait. Someone who acts. Someone who reminds us that rules are not more important than lives. He extended one of his 4 hands. Welcome to the Galactic Assembly, Ambassador. I suspect you are going to be very troublesome. Una took his hand. I suspect you are right. She looked back at her team. At June and Myra and Bora. At Tay and Sora and Day and Hannah. They were all smiling. They had done it. Against all odds, against all expectations. They had done it. Earth's seat was no longer empty. Approval had never been sought. Humanity had claimed its right. And from that day forward, nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The Kellen system was chaos. Ships filled the space around the 3 inhabited planets like swarms of insects. Some were Kellen vessels, small and slow, packed with frightened families trying to flee. Others were trading ships from a dozen different species, captains who had come to help or to profit from the disaster. And cutting through them all, moving with purpose and precision, were the human ships. The horizon arrived on the 12th day, just as Captain Tay had promised. Behind it came 214 more ships, their hulls painted with the colors of Earth. They spread out across the system like a net, each one moving to where it was needed most. On the bridge, Tay watched the screens. The dying star filled half the sky, its surface swirling with storms of fire. Even from this distance, he could feel its heat pressing against the ship's shields. They had less than 10 weeks before it exploded. "Where do we start?" Sora asked. Her voice was calm, but her hands were tight on the flight controls. "The outer planet first," Tay said. "Kellen 3. It has the smallest population, only about 200 million. If we can clear it quickly, we can focus on the larger worlds." Tay's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, I have finished modifying the cargo holds. We can carry about 12,000 passengers per trip. It is not comfortable, but they will survive." "That will have to be enough," Tay said. "How long to load and unload?" 4 hours if we are careful. 2 hours if we are not. Be not careful. We do not have time for careful. The next 10 weeks became a blur of exhaustion and determination. The human fleet worked without rest. Ships flew down to the planets, loaded as many people as they could carry, and flew back out to safe zones beyond the dying star's reach. Then they turned around and did it again. And again. And again. Sora flew the horizon through gravity wells that should have torn the ship apart. She navigated through debris fields and solar flares, her hands steady, her eyes never leaving the screens. When other pilots said a route was impossible, she found a way. When the computers said they could not make it, she proved them wrong. They worked miracles in the engine room. Machines that should have broken held together. Systems that should have failed kept running. He slept 3 hours a night and drank coffee until his hands shook. But the ship never stopped moving. Hana coordinated communications between hundreds of ships and dozens of refugee camps. She matched evacuees with destinations, tracked missing families, and kept information flowing, even when the radiation from the dying star disrupted every signal. Her voice became the calm center of the chaos dot, and on the planets below, humans worked side by side with Kellens. They helped families pack their belongings. They carried children who were too small to walk. They held the hands of old people who were too scared to move. They did not speak the same language, but they did not need to. Some things do not need words. The Kellen people had expected to be alone. They had expected to die watching their sun explode, forgotten by a galaxy that had promised to protect them. Instead, they found humans everywhere. Strange creatures with soft skin and fierce eyes who had come from a distant world to save people they had never met. "Why are you doing this?" a Kellen mother asked Tay one day. She was standing in a refugee camp on Kellen 2, holding a baby in her arms. Her eyes were red from crying. "Your people are not members of the assembly. You have no duty to help us. Why are you here?" Tay looked at her. He thought about all the reasons he could give. Political reasons. Strategic reasons. Reasons that would make sense to diplomats and generals. "Because it is the right thing to do," he said simply. "Because you needed help. Because we can help. That is all." The mother stared at him for a long moment. Then she bowed her head. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." The days passed. The star grew more unstable. And still the human ships kept flying. On the 60th day, the Assembly's official relief fleet finally arrived. It was impressive 300 large transport ships, each one capable of carrying 100,000 passengers. They had been built in emergency shipyards across the galaxy. assembled with impressive speed. But when they arrived, they found that most of the work was already done. Kellan 3 was empty. Kellan 2 was nearly empty. Only Kellan 1, the largest planet with over 2 billion people, still had significant population. And even there, the human fleet was working steadily, ship by ship, life by life. High Speaker Varl came to the system personally to oversee the final evacuation. He stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the human ships moving through space. His forearms hung at his sides. His face showed no expression. "How is this possible?" he asked his aide. "They have only 200 ships. We calculated that evacuation was impossible without at least 500. "They did not follow our calculations," the aide said. "They flew faster than we thought possible. They carried more passengers than we thought safe. They worked without rest. Our analysis did not account for such behavior." Vorel watched a human ship dive dangerously close to the dying star to pick up a stranded transport. It was reckless. It was insane. It was also successful. "These creatures," Vorel said slowly. "We told them they were not ready. We told them they were too young, too dangerous. Perhaps we were wrong." The aide looked at him in surprise. "High Speaker?" But Vorel did not answer. He simply watched as humanity continued to do the impossible. On the final day, with less than 24 hours before the star exploded, the last evacuation ship lifted off from Kellan 1. It was a human vessel, the Dawn, and it carried 15,000 passengers, far more than it was designed to hold. Its engines strained against the weight. Its hull groaned under the pressure, but it flew. Captain Tay watched from the horizon as the Dawn cleared the planet's atmosphere and accelerated towards safety. Behind it, the dying star began its final collapse. Light twisted and bent. Space itself seemed to scream dot, and then it was over. The star exploded. The 3 planets that had once been home to 3 billion people were vaporized in an instant. Fire swept through the system, destroying everything in its path. But the people were safe, every single one of them. When the light faded and the fire died, the human fleet gathered in the darkness beyond the system. 215 ships, battered and exhausted, their crews barely able to stand. They had not saved 3 billion people. That had been impossible, but they had saved 1,800,000,000. More than half. More than anyone had thought possible. More than anyone had dared to hope. And they had done it without asking permission, without waiting for approval, without following the rules that said it could not be done. They had done it because they were human. And that was enough. The star was dying. It had burned for 9 billion years, a steady golden light that had given life to 3 planets and countless moons. Civilizations had risen in its warmth. Children had grown up watching its light paint the sky. Poets had written songs about its beauty. Now it was collapsing. The scientists had known for years that this day would come. Stars do not live forever. They are born, they burn, and eventually they die. But the scientists had said they had time. They had said the star would last another 100,000 years. They had been wrong. Something had gone wrong deep in the star's core. The fusion reactions that had kept it alive were failing. In less than 3 months, the star would explode. The light that had given life would become fire that destroyed everything. 3 billion people lived in the Kellan system. 3 billion men, women, and children who had done nothing wrong. 3 billion lives that would end unless someone saved them. The Galactic Assembly gathered in emergency session. Delegates from 47 species filled the Great Hall, their voices rising in argument and fear. This was the greatest disaster in 1,000 years. Something had to be done. High Speaker Varl stood at the center of the chamber. "We must act," he said. "The Kellan people are members of this assembly. We have a duty to protect them. How? Demanded a delegate with red feathers. We would need 1,000 ships to evacuate 3 billion people. We do not have 1,000 ships. We could build them, said another delegate. In 3 months? Impossible. Then we must find another way. The arguments continued. Plans were proposed and rejected. Numbers were calculated and found to be impossible. The delegates talked and talked, but no solution appeared. Hours passed, then days. On the bridge of the horizon, Captain Tay watched the reports coming in. He saw the images of the dying star, its surface boiling with fire. He saw the faces of the Kellen people, their eyes filled with fear. He saw the assembly delegates arguing while time slipped away. They are not going to act, Sora said. She stood beside him, her arms crossed, her face tight with frustration. They're just talking. By the time they make a decision, it will be too late. They have been governing the galaxy for 12,000 years, Tay said quietly. They have forgotten how to move quickly. They have forgotten what urgency feels like. Tay walked onto the bridge. He was holding a datapad, and his eyes were bright with something like excitement. Captain, I have been looking at the numbers. The human fleet currently has 247 ships spread across this sector. If we call them all together, and if we push our engines to maximum capacity, we could move about 500 million people in 3 months. Hannah looked up from her station. That is not 3 billion. No, Day admitted. But it is 500 million more than zero. And if we can convince other independent traders and cargo ships to help, we might reach 800 million. Maybe 1 billion. Tay stared at the datapad. 1 billion lives. It was not enough. It was not even close to enough. But it was something. The Assembly will not approve this, Sora said. We are not members. We have no authority in Kellen space. If we go there without permission, they will see it as an invasion. Then, let them see it that way, Tay said. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at him. Captain? Hannah asked. Tay stood up. I have spent my whole life following the rules. I have been patient. I have been careful. I have done everything right. And what has it gotten us? Nothing. We are still outsiders. We are still not good enough. But those people are dying. 3 billion people are looking at the sky and wondering if anyone is coming to save them. The Assembly is talking. We can act. If we do this, Sora said slowly, we might start a war. If we do nothing, Tay replied, 3 billion people die. That is not a choice. That is simple math. He walked to the center of the bridge. Around him, his officers watched with wide eyes. They knew what he was about to do. They knew it could end their careers, their freedom, maybe even their lives. Open a channel to all human ships, Tay ordered. Hannah's fingers moved over her controls. Channel open, Captain. Tay took a deep breath. This is Captain Tay of the Starship Horizon. By now, you have all heard about the crisis in the Kellen system. A star is dying. 3 billion lives hang in the balance. The Galactic Assembly is debating what to do. They may find a solution. They may not. But we cannot wait to find out. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I am ordering all human ships to proceed to the Kellen system immediately. We will offer our assistance to the Kellen people. We will evacuate as many as we can. We will save every life that can be saved. This is not a request. This is not a suggestion. This is what we are going to do. Sora stepped forward. Captain, Earth Command has not authorized this. You do not have the authority to give this order. I know, Tay said. I am giving it anyway. Any ship that does not want to participate can stay behind. Any captain who disagrees with me can file a complaint when this is over. But I am going to the Kellen system. and I am going to save as many lives as I can. Who is coming with me?" For a long moment, there was silence. Then, one by one, responses began to come in. "The ship Dawn is with you, Captain. The ship Mountain stands ready. The ship River will follow wherever you lead." More and more voices joined in. Within an hour, 215 ships had agreed to join the mission. 32 had declined, their captains choosing to follow official orders and wait for instructions from Earth. Tay did not blame them. They were doing what they thought was right. But he could not wait anymore. "Sora," he said, "set a course for the Kellen system. Maximum speed." Sora sat down at her station. Her hands moved over the controls. "Course laid in. We will arrive in 12 days. Then we have 12 days to prepare," Tay said. "Day, I need you to modify our cargo holds. Strip out anything we do not absolutely need. We need to carry as many people as possible." "Already working on it," Day said. "Hannah, contact the Kellen government. Tell them we are coming. Tell them we are here to help, not to invade. Make sure they understand." "Yes, Captain." Tay looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, a dying sun was counting down to destruction. Somewhere out there, 3 billion people were praying for a miracle. Humanity was coming. No one had asked them to. No one had given them permission. They were coming anyway, because that was who they were. The starship Horizon moved through the darkness of space like a quiet giant. It was not the biggest ship in Earth's fleet, but it was one of the fastest. Its hull was painted dark gray, and its engines glowed with soft blue light. Inside, a crew of 200 people lived and worked, far from home, carrying out missions that most of humanity would never know about. Captain Tay sat in his command chair on the bridge. He was 41 years old, with a strong face and tired eyes. He had been in space for 15 years, and those years had marked him. His hair was starting to turn gray at the edges. His hands had small scars from a dozen different accidents. But his mind was sharp, and his crew trusted him with their lives. Around him, the bridge was quiet. Officers sat at their stations, watching screens and monitoring systems. Everything was normal. Everything was routine. Then the communication screen lit up. "Captain," said the communications officer, a young woman named Hannah, "we have a priority message from Earth Command." Tay straightened in his chair. Priority messages were rare. They usually meant bad news. "Put it through," he said. The screen flickered and a face appeared. It was Admiral Park, the head of Earth's Space Forces. He was an old man with white hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. He rarely smiled. He was not smiling now. "Captain Tay," the Admiral said. "I have difficult news." Tay waited. "Ambassador Yuna's mission to the Galactic Assembly has failed. The Assembly voted unanimously to deny Earth's application for membership. We have been told to wait. The official response suggests we should not apply again for at least 1,000 years. Tay felt something cold settle in his chest. He had hoped. They had all hoped. For 300 years, humanity had been working toward this moment. They had built ships. They had explored the galaxy. They had tried to prove themselves worthy. And now they had been told that none of it mattered. "What are our orders?" Tay asked. The Admiral was silent for a long moment. "Our orders are to continue as before. To explore. To trade with the species that will trade with us. To grow stronger. To wait." "Wait," Tay repeated. The word tasted bitter in his mouth. "I know how you feel," the Admiral said. "I feel the same. But we cannot force our way into the Assembly. We are not strong enough." "Not yet." The transmission ended. Tay sat alone with his thoughts. After a few minutes, his senior officers gathered on the bridge. There was Sora, the chief pilot, a woman in her early 30s with quick eyes and faster reflexes. There was Day, the chief engineer, a large man with gentle hands who could fix anything. And there was Hana, who had left her communications station to stand with the others. "We heard," Sora said. "The whole ship is talking about it." Tay nodded slowly. The assembly said no. They said we were too young, too dangerous, too reckless. "That is not fair," Day said. His voice was soft, but there was anger underneath. "We have done nothing wrong. We have followed their rules. We have tried to be good neighbors. Fair does not matter to them," Tay said. "They have been governing the galaxy for 12,000 years. To them, we are children playing with toys. They do not see us as equals. They may never see us as equals." Hannah looked at the floor. "So what do we do? Just accept it? Just wait for 1,000 years?" Tay stood up from his chair. He walked to the front of the bridge, where a large window showed the stars stretching out into infinity. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there was a small blue planet filled with people who had just been told they did not matter. "No," Tay said quietly. Sora stepped closer. "No?" Tay turned to face his officers. "The assembly can refuse to give us a seat. They can tell us we are not ready. But they cannot tell us who we are. They cannot tell us what we can do. We are human. We do not wait for permission to exist. We do not wait for approval to act. What are you saying?" They asked that. Tay smiled. It was a strange smile, full of something that his crew had never seen before. It was not hope. It was not anger. It was something else. Something dangerous. "I am saying that we will show them," Tay said. "Not with words. Not with applications. Not with diplomacy. We will show them with actions. When the galaxy needs help, we will be there. When disaster strikes, we will respond. When others talk, we will act. And one day, they will look at us and realize that they need us. That the galaxy is better with us than without us." Sora crossed her arms. "That could take years, decades. We might never see the results." "Then we will not see them," Tay said. "But our children will. Our grandchildren will. Humanity does not give up. Humanity does not surrender. That is who we are. That is what makes us different from every other species in this galaxy. They have forgotten what it means to fight for something. They have become comfortable in their power. But we remember. We will always remember." The bridge was silent. Then, slowly, Day began to nod. "I believe in you, Captain. I believe in humanity. What do you need from me?" "Keep this ship running," Tay said. "Make it faster. Make it stronger. We have work to do." Sora uncrossed her arms. "I can fly us anywhere. Just give me a direction." Hannah looked up. "I can monitor all the communications in this sector. If anyone needs help, I will know about it." Tay looked at his crew. These were good people. Strong people. They had left their homes and their families to sail among the stars. They had been told that their species was worthless, that their efforts meant nothing. But they were still standing, still ready to fight. "Send a message to the fleet," Tay said. "Tell them what happened. Tell them we were refused. And then tell them that it does not matter. We did not come to space to join a club. We came to space because it is in our nature to explore, to grow, to reach for something greater. The assembly may not want us, but the galaxy will need us. And when that day comes, we will be ready." Hannah moved back to her station. Her fingers danced over the controls. The message went out, traveling at the speed of light, reaching every human ship in the sector. Within hours, responses began to arrive. Ship after ship reported the same thing. They were angry. They were disappointed. But they were not giving up. Humanity had been knocked down before. It had always gotten back up. Captain Tay sat back in his chair and watched the stars. Somewhere out there, the Galactic Assembly was continuing its business, already forgetting about the small human delegation that had come asking for a seat. They thought they had settled the matter. They thought humanity would quietly accept its place and wait for permission. They were wrong. Humanity had never needed permission. Not to leave Earth, not to reach the stars, not to become something greater than what it was, and it did not need permission now. The Galactic Assembly building floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of light. It was old, older than most civilizations that now sat inside its great hall. For 12,000 years, the Assembly had governed the known galaxy. Wars had been stopped. Trade routes had been opened. Peace had been kept. 47 species held seats in the great circular chamber, and each seat carried the weight of billions of lives. But there was one seat that remained empty. It sat in the outer ring, covered in dust that the cleaning machines never touched. The chair was simple, made of dark metal, and it had a small symbol carved into its back, a blue and green circle. Earth. The seat had been placed there 300 years ago when humans first made contact with the galaxy. It was a gesture of welcome, or so the Assembly had claimed. But in 300 years, no human had ever been allowed to sit in it. Una stood at the entrance of the great hall and looked at that empty chair. She was 34 years old, with short black hair and calm eyes that hid a fire burning deep inside. She wore the formal uniform of Earth's diplomatic corps, simple gray fabric with a small Earth symbol on her chest. Behind her stood her team. There was June, a tall man with glasses who served as her advisor. There was Mira, a young woman who handled communications. And there was old Bora, a man of 60 who had spent his entire life studying alien law. They had traveled for 8 months to reach this place. 8 months in the cold silence of space, preparing for this moment. "Are you ready?" June asked quietly. Una did not answer. She simply walked forward. The great hall was filled with aliens of every shape and size. Some had scales. Some had feathers. Some looked like clouds of colored gas held together by invisible force. They all turned to watch as the small human delegation walked down the long path toward the center of the chamber. The high speaker sat on a raised platform at the heart of the room. His name was Varl, and he belonged to a species called the Tyranni. They were tall and thin, with gray skin and 4 arms. They had been one of the founding species of the Assembly, and they believed this gave them the right to lead. Varl looked down at Una with eyes that showed no warmth. "You were not invited," he said. His voice echoed through the chamber. Una stopped walking. She stood in the center of the floor, surrounded by 47 species who watched her like she was an insect that had crawled into their home. "We do not need an invitation," Una said. Her voice was calm and clear. "We are here to claim Earth's seat." A sound moved through the chamber. It might have been laughter. It might have been disbelief. Varl raised one of his 4 hands. "Claim?" He repeated. "Child, that seat was placed there as a symbol of what humanity might one day become. It was not a promise. It was not a right. It was a possibility. Then, we are here to make that possibility real," Una replied. Varl leaned forward. "Do you know how old this assembly is? Do you know how long it takes for a species to prove itself worthy of membership? The Colorans waited 2,000 years. The Veth waited 3,000. Your species has only been aware of the galaxy for 3 centuries. You are infants. We are ready," Una said. "You are not." Varl's voice was cold. "Humanity is reckless. Your history is filled with war and destruction. You fight among yourselves like animals. You damage your own planet. You build weapons of terrible power and then point them at each other. Why would we allow such a species to join us? Yuna felt her team shift behind her. She knew they were afraid. She knew they wanted to leave. But she did not move. Every species has a difficult past, she said. Every species has made mistakes. But we have also done great things. We have survived. We have grown. We have reached the stars. Reaching the stars is not enough, said another voice. It came from a delegate with blue scales and a long tail. Many species have reached the stars. Most of them have destroyed themselves. We have seen it happen 100 times, 1,000 times. Young species burn bright and then fade away. What makes you different? Yuna looked at the alien who had spoken. Nothing, she admitted. We are not different. We are just like you. We are afraid. We make mistakes. We hurt each other. But we also love. We also hope. We also dream of something better. And we never stop trying. Silence fell over the chamber. Varl stood up from his seat. All 4 of his arms spread wide. This assembly has governed the galaxy for 12,000 years. In that time, we have learned one truth above all others. Young species are dangerous. They are unpredictable. They cannot be trusted with the power that membership brings. Humanity will receive its seat when humanity has earned it. That time has not yet come. When? Yuna asked. When will that time come? Vorl looked down at her. When we decide. When we are satisfied that you are ready. When we have observed you for long enough to know that you will not bring chaos to this galaxy. That could take 1,000 years. It could take 5,000. It does not matter. Time means nothing to the assembly. Yuna felt her heart beating in her chest. She had known this would happen. She had prepared for this moment. But knowing and feeling were 2 different things. And if we disagree? She asked. Vorl's eyes narrowed. You cannot disagree. You have no power here. You have no voice. You have nothing. Earth is small. Earth is weak. Earth is alone. If you try to force your way into this assembly, you will be removed. If you try to make trouble, you will be dealt with. That is not a threat. It is simply the truth. Yuna looked at the empty chair one more time. 300 years of waiting. 300 years of being told they were not good enough. 300 years of watching other species take their seats while humanity stood outside, looking in. She turned back to Vorl. We will remember this, she said quietly. Vorl smiled. It was not a kind smile. Remember whatever you wish. It changes nothing. Now leave. This assembly has important matters to discuss, and you are wasting our time. Yuna turned and walked back toward the entrance. Her team followed in silence. The aliens watched them go, already forgetting about them, already moving on to other business. But as Yuna passed through the great doors, she looked back one final time at Earth's empty chair. And in her heart, she made a promise. They had been denied. They had been dismissed. They had been told to wait, but humanity had never been good at waiting.